big story right now. They haven't used the word lockdown, but in effect, the orders which the Chief Minister, Uddhav Thackeray, has announced for Maharashtra are very, very stringent indeed. Given the COVID situation and the escalating number of cases seeming to indicate that the situation is fast out of control. I'll talk about the main points that he has mentioned, but I think the context also needs to be stated. He did say that there is an acute shortage of oxygen, increasingly in parts of the state. He is appealing for help to get more oxygen. Hospital facilities are at maximum right now. No matter how much more capacity he is able to add, that's getting filled up right now. But what was really worrying is what he spoke about, the oxygen situation getting very, very difficult, even though availability has been stepped up. Also spoke about exploring whether the military needed to sort of come in to help with the supply of essential items, presumably oxygen at this stage. So, imposition of Section 144 and night curfew, that's been announced. So, no assembly in significant numbers. That's been imposed for 15 days across Maharashtra. No one will move in public places without valid reasons. All establishments, public places, activities, services shall remain closed, except those clearly mentioned, and there are quite a few exceptions. Services and activities mentioned in the essential category are exempted. Their movements and operations are to be unrestricted. Services and activities in the exceptions category are exempted from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on working days, and their movements and exceptions are to be unrestricted during these periods. So, essentially 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. is when there would be very strong restrictions which are in place. Again, and I just want to reiterate that I am reading this out just on the basis of what we've just received now. So, there would be many a slip between cup and lip, but you would need to go through these, and I'm sure this would be brought out in a great deal of detail, which we will do as well as we go through this. So, a decision regarding the inclusion of domestic help, drivers and attendants to work in the exceptions category will be taken by local authorities based on local conditions. Essential categories they've identified. This includes hospitals, diagnostic centers, clinics, vaccination, medical insurance offices, pharma companies, those involved in transport and the supply chain, manufacturing and the distribution of vaccines. All of that is important. That will remain. Veterinary services remains, groceries, vegetable shops, fruit vendors, dairies, bakeries, confectionaries, all types of food shops. These are essential. They will remain open, but with very strict guidelines. Cold storage, warehousing services, that's open. Public transport, so trains, airplanes, taxis, autos and public buses will remain, again with conditions. Services related to the functioning of diplomats continues. Pre-monsoon activities by local authorities will continue. All public services by local authorities, that will carry on. Transport of goods, water services, all of this. So, a lot of exceptions. So, this is a very significant modification to a complete lockdown. It's meant to ensure that there is a minimum breakdown of essential services, which a lot of people complained about last year. But it's still going to be very, very stringent. Let's go across to, who do we have? Let's go across to NDTV Saurabh Gupta, who's been tracking all of these developments. So, the bottom line is what? 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. There would be Section 144. So, the right to assemble has been curtailed for what? 15 days, right?
Absolutely. You know, Section 144 across the state, which means that if you cannot convince enforcement authorities that you do not belong, or you do belong in fact to a category that's exempted from these restrictions, then obviously the state can take legal action against you. Now, a lot of things that were perhaps missing last year and that really hit people hard last year during the lockdown seems to have been addressed here. One was the lack of public transport. The non-availability of public transport had really hit people hard. Secondly, now look at this situation. There are street side vendors in Mumbai, and remember, they feed a lot of people. A lot of people of Mumbai live on the streets. Who looks after them? Who feeds them? So their needs also being taken care of in this announcement. This is something that even the opposition had pointed out, to be fair, and that seems to have been taken into consideration by the government here. Also, what we know is that, flights are functioning. trains are functioning, but avoid non-essential travel basically. Travel only if you have to at this point, and that's something that is being made very clear. So you will have all the things that you need in case there is an, that there is an emergency or there is something that's absolutely essential. But what the Chief Minister is basically appealing to the state is that, look, this is not a full lockdown. This is, of course, something that is very strict restrictions. But at the same time, it's being balanced out with exemptions that will ensure that people don't go hungry, people don't have, food to eat. So all of those issues have been taken care of. For example, the Shiv Bhojan Thali, which is the flagship scheme of the Shiv Sena, which was provided at ₹5 a plate, which was a full meal. That is now going to be provided free of cost. So while the Chief Minister, used the term Rozi Roti, he said, Rozi to shayad I cannot, sort of ensure for everyone in these 15 months, but Roti I can, which means that no one sleeps hungry.